Welcome everyone, I'm the Depressed Eagle and this is Langrisser Mobile. So, we got ourselves a new banner, but before we dive into that, there are no, the new exclusive weapons are for Sage of the Trees and Vincent, so nothing we need to worry about. And as far as awakenings are concerned, Narm, who's an SP class now, and Freya, who's also an SP class, have their 3Cs available. Obviously, the new character also, their 3Cs also available if we happen to get her. So speaking of, we got Transcend, Apex of Humanity, which has Transcender and Alpha. For this one, we actually technically need both because Alpha's bond requirements are Epsilon and Fabio Gizaroff there. So unfortunately, I'm gonna need one of each. I don't know when if they pop up on any future banners anytime soon, so don't really have anything to go off of. In any case, let's go ahead and dive right in. So far, our past efforts is usually we do pretty horrible on screen, and then when I do summons off screen, it kind of does a 180. That's pretty much what happened with Christiane, and I'm still recovering from it. So let's try this. Actually, I need to get something right on. We'll use this. All right. As for Alpha herself, I saw her a few times in on the Chinese Apex finals, but the very few times she was actually picked for a match, she didn't really. The player didn't really survive long enough to actually do anything with her, which that wasn't necessarily Alpha's fault on her own, but yeah, I never really saw her do anything. That being said, she's essentially she's another offensive spear type. Which at this point would be pretty. She would be. I would say she would probably been pretty decent, back when like Landius cavalry tanks were still a thing. I think we're at 50 now. Sorry if I sound a bit different. It's rather early. Good news is, after this banner, there's not really anything I need to worry about for about 2 months. Bad news is, there is a banner that's not new that I will need to actually possibly look at. I have to look at the schedule again, but I actually need to get Sage of the Trees or Old Landius because he's needed for a bond for Marianne, who's essentially old Lambda. So eventually I need to actually get him, and unfortunately he's not an option for the grab bag I got a while back, which I still haven't used because I don't really have any use for it. Well, looks like we're already diving into pity here. So yeah, I think this is 80. I lost count. I'll know soon. Yeah, I would have. Yeah, alright, so next is pity. This is pretty bad because I don't actually have enough for another pity if we have to go for a second. Alright. Really bad rate. It's always worse when it's for a character I don't really need. Alright, so we got Alpha. Unfortunately, we still need to get Transcender. Amethyst vessel, the first vessel produced after the final legend, a loyal warrior. Honestly, her art style is really cool looking, and she was kind of a cool character in the story. It's just unfortunate that she's not very good in the meta. Okay. It was 30 summons, I believe. But only a 40% chance to actually get what I need. Well, another alpha. Okay. Alright. So that's three SSRs within 130 summons. So at an average that's like what, 43 summons per. So yeah, not too bad. We're actually a little our rate is a little above average by a slim margin. So that's not too bad. Remnants of the Final Legend, one who has surpassed all limits, the ultimate Transcender, also Fabio. Alright. So cool, we got that taken care of. Give me a moment and we'll see if we can take a look at our kit. Alright, and we're back. So, alright, she's not the weakest. Alright, so let's do upgrade stars, get that taken care of. I did go and take care of her bonds and all that good stuff. Alright, so her talent is she gets a plus damage increase, just damage dealt increase raw, and then if she's ever fighting against something, that is the opposite of what is said in the Langrisser, but essentially if she's fighting anything with a class disadvantage, she gets an attack and defense buff. So, assuming that's correct, I guess that means you actually do well against things that she's not supposed to do well against. Or at least better endure it. And then at the start of each battle, she will either get Amethyst Cover or Amethyst Shield. And essentially, it's a magic damage reduction shield or a physical damage reduction shield. And they can't exist simultaneously, and they alternate essentially every turn. You also can't forcibly dispel it or anti-buff it. So it's kind of interesting. She does have guard skills. She can guard both physical and magic. Yeah, take all attacks. She has a bunch of regeneration capabilities. She does have access to crystal molders. Beyond that, she does have access to berserkers if you do want to go, actual single target striking. Um, Usually, I don't know. Like I said, I don't have much experience. I haven't seen very much of her in action in the Chinese servers, and I mean it's the usual issue. She's a offensive tank with no faction buff and short legs, which essentially just makes her just not that useful. She does have a self res when she get her 3C, and she does have her 3C AOE does more damage based off how low her HP is. So essentially, you can do something like carbon fiber and just try to do something very similar to like something that Estelle or Sumair might do, where you go as low HP and then just try to nuke everything. And on her 3C that provides a self-res, when she self-reses, she actually gets a cooldown reduction of 5, which is pretty impressive. So anyway, so that's kind of the gist of it. Also, her 3C actually does damage to herself, of all things. Anyway, for right now, I went with Throne Guardian, gave her Breeze, some Carbon Fiber, some Apex Boots. Her enchants are pretty low, because I didn't really have any spare enchants to give her. But that's kind of the gist of it. I don't intend on using her. The other issue, of course, she's Empire and Dark, which is generally good factions, but not really factions I'm particularly using. In my current box, I have a faction buff for Empire through Rose and Seal, but she's always permabanned in most cases. So, and I don't use Lycoris anymore, so she's not really someone I can buff. One thing to note, though, is she does her guard skill will actually give her an attack buff, as well as reinforcements and parry. So it's a kind of an all-in sort of buff, which is pretty impressive. Her single target skills are kind of standard. She does have frontal assaults, which would make her very good against characters like Landius, if Landius was actually used anymore. Armor Pierce is pretty standard. Roar is always good, but beyond that, we got parry and reinforcements, which is redundant because you have access to Crystal Wrist. And then she does have Crystal Blade as one of her unique skills, which will make it so she does 1.5 times damage and then swaps her shield essentially. And then she restores health after the combat. And I think that's everything. So I'll deal with the Awakenings on a different video. So for right now, I am the Restio. This was Langrisser Mobile. I'll see you guys later.